It's time. It's time to let it go. To finally let go of that sin you continue to go back to. And after this video, there's literally one thing that you need to do and keep in mind and keep into consideration anytime you have an urge to give back into temptation. Anytime you have that urge to skip the word, to allow yourself to get pulled by distractions. Every single time it ends up happening, there's only one root that a lot of people overlook. And the root is faith. There's a reason why the Bible urges us to stay away from being double-minded, meaning believing one thing and then believing another thing. Believing one thing and then convincing yourself what you just believed isn't true. It's literally like you convince yourself, oh, I want to start reading the word more. And then you convince yourself, oh, no, I don't want to do that anymore. Or you convince yourself, oh, I want to be more focused. I want to start prioritizing God instead of prioritizing my work and my job. And then you convince yourself, oh, God isn't worth it. I don't think that an hour of time with God is that important that I don't need to do it. And because you have this double mind, you continue to convince yourself one thing and then you can't be single-minded. That is why you continue to go back. That is why you can't stay consistent with overcoming temptation. And if you think about even Joseph, he was almost the biggest example we can learn from. He had so much faith in what God had called him to do at such a young age. So much faith that he told his brothers, his father, and then even in the midst of him getting thrown into slavery, thrown into the pit, he still had faith. Enough faith for him to serve with joy, with putting God first. And we know that he was serving while putting God first because they seen the favor in him. They seen that there was something different about Joseph. And so he continued to rise and rise and rise. And even in the midst of him being in slavery, getting sold into slavery, and God allowing all of this to happen, when he got tempted by Potiphar's wife, which I'm pretty sure his flesh desired, what did he say? He said he couldn't do this. Why? Because of God. Not because he didn't want to, not because of anything, but how could I do this to God? And so the only way to constantly be working for God is if you constantly have faith in him. Because think about it. The reason why you stop working towards something or you get burnt out towards something isn't because it's too much work majority of the times. It's simply that you don't think your work is working. You stop believing that whatever you're working towards is actually going to work for you or get you the results that you want in the time that you want. And that's why many people are inconsistent with the word, because they read the word expecting to get the results. Your desires is to magically change or your mind is to magically renew. And because this expectation didn't come in the time that they wanted, they start to become double-minded. They convince themselves this is not worth it, or me prioritizing God isn't really doing anything. And that's why any time that I went to go truly try to read the word, especially after falling, after feeling that guilty feeling, I would give up after 2 to 3 days because I didn't see the importance of it. Same thing with when I tried working towards something that I was truly passionate about. If I didn't see the results right away, I would start to lose that faith and be double-minded, convince myself that it's not worth it, and then I would stop, and then temptation would start to feel more appealing to me, distractions would look more appealing to me, and then boom, I would end up falling. And so we see in the story of Joseph, he was so single-minded that he had faith in the vision that God had for him, that he continued to put God first. And even after he passed and endured that temptation, and then he got thrown in jail, he still continued to put God first. For years, he didn't get what he wanted, but he knew at the end of the day, as long as he put God first, that God was leading him into something bigger. You have to have the same mindset. You have to be single-minded. No matter what happens in your life, you don't get the things that you want right away. No matter if you didn't get the relationship that you want right away, no matter if you went through something that really broke your heart, no matter what it is, you have to be single-minded, because those are just tests. And anytime you get past a test, what happens? Your faith grows. Joseph's faith grew more and more and more with the trials that were thrown in his way, so that when he became king, he didn't turn against God. His faith grew so much that he had so much faith in God that when he got what he wanted, he was able to sustain it and keep it. So if you really want to truly overcome temptation, you have to grow your faith. You have to be single-minded. You can't be on fire for God for one day and then lose that fire the next just because the feelings go away. You can't just read the word when you feel like it or when you're on fire, when you're really, really motivated. You have to be willing to read the word when it seems boring, when the feelings aren't there, when it's not speaking about your exact situation, when you just have to learn about your creator, learn about God. You can't just go to church when it's convenient for you and when you're really, really on fire, when the sermon is like speaking to your exact situation. You have to be willing to listen and just be okay with getting poured into and keeping your mind on God all the time. You can't just say no to temptation when everything feels right, when it feels like you're gonna get the job that you want, the career that you want, the relationship that you want, everything's going right. You have to be willing to say no and trust God even in the midst of the bad seasons. Because why? Those bad seasons is where your faith is gonna grow the most. Just like in the story of Joseph. So if you want to continuously have that faith and be single-minded so that you can have that discipline, this is the exact system that I use with my clients inside of my program so that they can continuously overcome temptation and not just go 2 to 3 weeks without it. And the first thing that you need to do is prioritize God over everything else. That means you are getting in the word no matter what. Especially at the beginning, it's like a jump start. You have to be really, really intentional about overcoming temptation because that's when it's going to be the most hard. That's when you're breaking strongholds. So you need to be in the word, not just even one time a day. Make sure you're reading as much as possible, 2 times a day. Get through the whole Bible. Make sure you're actually reading. And make sure that time where you're reading, you're not just getting through it, but you're actually delighting in the Lord. The word says, if you delight in the Lord, he will give you the desires of your heart. So if you're genuinely curious about getting to know God and reading the scriptures to get to know him instead of just trying to apply it to your life, that is when you'll grow that connection with him. And he will give you the desires of your heart, meaning that you will have the desire to do the things of God and you won't want to do the things of the flesh. But where most people go wrong is, even me, when I used to try to read the word every single day, I was doing it with the intention to try to overcome temptation. I was like, trying to read and like, why is this not working? So therefore, 2 to 3 weeks down the line, I may be consistent, but as soon as I get back into temptation and the desire started coming back, I stopped reading the word because the sole purpose of me reading was to overcome the temptation instead of to get to know God. And so you have to read the word to get to know him. And that's exactly why I have my clients make sure that they actually write down what they got from the word as well as their quality time with God. Is their quality time really, really good where they are actually focused and doing it for God, or they're doing it just out of obligation where it feels like a chore? It feels like they're always getting distracted and they're getting, as soon as they read, they get done reading, they forget what they read about. When you get to that point, the word literally talks about if you do that, then it's like a man who looks in the mirror and forgets what he looks like. Basically saying you're not actually renewing your mind. You're not actually changing your perspective of the way that you're supposed to live. You're reading and it's going in one ear and out the other. And so that's why it's important to have a quality time when you read and don't just read to get it out the way. And number 2, immediate obedience. You have to be obedient with the things that God is telling you to do. If God tells you to cut off something, you need to be willing to cut it off. If God told you to go spread the gospel, you need to go be willing to spread the gospel, be willing to serve. You have to be willing to push through fear and do what he's telling you to do, even if it's reading the word. Like, and how you know God is actually telling you to do something. If you have something in your heart that pulls you to go do something that you normally want to do, that goes against your flesh, anytime that happens, that's how you know God is speaking directly to you, telling you to go and do that. And anytime you delay that obedience, anytime you procrastinate, it's actually strengthening doubt instead of strengthening your faith. And every time you take immediate action, it's strengthening your faith, it's strengthening your trust. And the word literally says, as long as you trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will make your path straight. That was one of my favorite verses for the longest time, for the simple fact that is what allowed me to take action. It allowed me to just trust that God was going to pave the way as long as I took action, and he did. So that's why it's important that you continuously take action. Stop letting fear, stop letting overthinking cause you to stay stagnant where you are. Because the word also talks about that the sluggard says that there's a lion outside, so therefore I can't take action. It says that in Proverbs, I think it was It was Proverbs something. I don't know the specific verse on the top of my head. But the more that you practice your faith and you continuously take action, no matter what fear says to you, that is when your faith will actually start to grow. And that's how you can constantly keep that faith, if you're constantly taking action. And that's why a lot of people say, just fill yourself with distractions, always work and things like that. But if you're always working, yet you're not working on the things that God put on your heart, then you're only feeding doubt more and more and more. So therefore, even no matter how distracted you are, when it gets time where maybe you feel like you're alone, you're going to end up falling into temptation because your faith wasn't strengthened. So make sure you're doing what God is putting on your heart for you to do, because that is how you're going to strengthen that faith. And number 3, make sure you're going on a dopamine detox. Anything that is cheap dopamine, you need to remove out of your life. And that's why the word says renew your mind, stop conforming to this world, and then renew your mind. Then that's when God will give you the good and pleasing perfect will that he has for you, because you need to renew your mind from the things that you're used to renew your mind with. So if you renew your mind with scrolling on your phone and the things of this world, and then of course you need to renew your mind with the word. You need to renew your mind with godly community, with church, because your mind is so used to stimulation. It's so used to getting the things that it wants really, really fast. And so that's why it's so hard to open up the word. You haven't trained your mind to constantly do the things of God. And anytime you may read the word, or anytime you may watch a sermon, and then you go to scrolling on your phone or the distractions of this world, maybe school or work, whatever it is, you're putting yourself in bad environments. As soon as you get in that environment, it's like the seed of the word is stripped away from you. As soon as you get to scrolling and your mind wanders away from God, then that seed of the sermon is literally taken away from you. And so therefore your faith was never allowed to grow because your mind isn't renewed. Take a season in your life to cut off the things that are distracting you away from God, because God needs that out of you. He needs you to strip everything that is distracting you away from him, so you can solely focus on him and he can be with you at all times. And this is exactly what I did. I called it the wilderness season. I was out in nature a lot. I was spending a lot of time with God. I had cut off my favorite streamers, my favorite YouTube entertainers. And mind you, some of the things that I personally was getting convicted about, that God was telling me to strip off and just cut off, like gaming or shows or things that I was watching, I always questioned, like, God, do I really need to cut this off? Is this really affecting me? I didn't truly know if I needed to do it, but because I wanted to grow closer to God, I was willing to do it. I was just like, if I have this like conviction in my heart, it has to be for a reason. If I have to question it, then that most likely means I should cut it off. And then after this season of me going closer to God, if I can start watching it again, or if I can start desiring to do it again, then of course, maybe you don't want me to cut it off. But for now, I'm going to cut this off just to see if this is something you don't want me to have. And in this time, I had to continuously have faith and do it for the right reasons, for the simple fact I was still struggling with temptation at that time. I was cutting off everything, but didn't see immediate results. But as I continuously grew more and more and more, that is when God gave me the strength to say no. That actually leads me to the last one, which is practicing endurance. You have to practice saying no to your temptation. You have to fight. Practice resisting with all of your strength. Majority of the people do not deal with their sin aggressively enough. They treat it as a pet instead of treating it as an enemy. And so you have to literally get to the point where every thought that comes to mind, you throw it away. Everything that tempts you, you literally throw your phone. And anytime you get a slight temptation, you get up, you take your mind off of wherever you're at. You have to be aware at all times, literally like you're always on go. Think about if you're in a war, you're always watching your back of something. Well, you have to be like that with every hour of your day, every minute of your day, every second of your day. You have to be treating it as a war, like you're always on go. Because the second you lose focus, you start daydreaming or doing whatever, he's going to send you an intrusive thought, and you're not going to take captive of it, and it's going to resonate in your heart. And so you have to be protecting your heart at all times, because essentially you're in a war where you're protecting your heart, you're defending your heart. And so you always have to be fighting. That means watching what you look at. As soon as you see something on your feed, or you see something on social media that may slightly even give you a thought to give in to temptation, you click not interested. Matter of fact, you report it, because that's exactly what I did, so it doesn't pop back up on your feed. Say you're dealing with something traumatic, or you're dealing with past traumas. You have to be willing to forgive them, number one, and let it go. But you also have to get to the bottom of the root, because lust is literally just a symptom of something deeper, maybe a lack of purpose, maybe not healing from unhealed wounds, feeling lonely or feeling alone all the time, and not having anybody to run to, or having someone to understand you, or just not knowing your identity in Christ. Lust is never the root problem. It's always a symptom. And so once you get to you deal aggressively with your sin to the point where you get to the root of it, that is when you will have everlasting change. Because I promise you, you can be disciplined for maybe a week, 3 days, maybe 2 weeks, even 3 weeks. You can live on survival mode for a little while, but that discipline will always run out. It will always run out if you don't get to the bottom of the problem. So yes, become aware of when, why, and how it happens. What thoughts happen before you give in to temptation? What exactly cause you to continue to go back? And if you're struggling to figure it out, that is exactly why I have a program to walk you through the whole process so that you can overcome lust. Because I promise you, there's no way as a follower of Christ that you should continue to go back to the same sin over and over and over. You should be walking in your purpose, walking in the fulfilled life that God has for you. I promise you, if you have an eternal perspective, it's so much easier to perceive pain as pleasure. The pain of resisting temptation, you see that as pleasure. The pain of going through discipline, you receive that as pleasure. But you have to see the way that God sees, meaning he has a future perspective. He has what is going to be the best for me in the future. Setting your mind on the things above. In Colossians chapter 3, verse 2 talks about this, to always set your mind on the things above. And that is how you're going to have a single mind and never doubt. So yes, take this with you. Make sure that you're constantly training your faith every single day with these 4 steps. Because I promise you, if you continuously use these and apply these to your life, you will have unwavering faith, unwavering confidence. And if you're already on that route and you just need that extra accountability to keep that faith with you, and you need a step-by-step plan so that you can know exactly how to continuously have faith in your life, then make sure you book a call with me down below and apply for the mentorship to see if you're a good fit for the program. But yes, this is exactly how you're going to continuously have faith inside of your life. But the word also says that it's not good for men to be alone. So it's so important that you get a community that consistently plants seeds inside of you, who are constantly pouring into you so that you never lose that fire. You can always keep that faith, because it's 10 times easier when you have someone right by your side who is going through the same thing, who has went through the same things that you're trying to overcome. And that's why the word says iron sharpens iron, and 2 is better than 1. So yes, appreciate y'all for watching, and I appreciate all the support. Again, if you want to support, the link is down below. If not, till next time, as usual, y'all stay blessed.